Hey everyone, we're here at Bob FM in Ramsey, Minnesota. We're going to have the opportunity to get a tour of the studio, which is pretty sweet sitting here already. And we're going to just take some time to learn a little bit more about this local business. And here we are in the studio, sitting with Brad Clark with Bob FM, Total Country. So Brad, thank you for having us, and thank you for taking time to be on our video series, which the purpose of this is really just to have fun, learn more about local businesses, what they do, and just learn about it, and just share information that could be valuable to the people watching or even to you. So
that's good.
Tell me a little bit about yourself and about Bob.
Okay, Brad Clark. I'm the general sales manager here. That's my title, if you will. But I help businesses just like Josh's here. We had North Face. We did a storm campaign after the recent hail storms earlier this year. And the idea is my goal here is to bring business. It's all about really ROI. Right. Josh, you invested with us to get the word out for multiple things. So I'm going to tell everybody who's watching.
Because this could be beneficial to any business owners that are watching on how radio works and what it could do for them. Absolutely.
So with the hailstorms, we're kind of looking at and saying, hey, this is an opportunity for you to be able to do what you do best, go out there and help people get their roofs fixed and all that kind of stuff. So we had partnered some time ago, and Josh had a leg up on everybody because we had put together a jingle. We have a company that we work with called Advanced Concepts that does jingles. And we'd worked together. He'd had the jingle put together. Yeah. And so we kind of had that in the can and ready to go for the opportunity, for the right time to do something together. Yeah. And with this series of storms coming through, said, okay, now, and the reason why I said he has a leg up is because with a jingle, and I believe everybody who's going to watch this is going to know one jingle. It's been around for 40 years.
Yeah.
And you'll know it as soon as I say save big money. You will finish the song in your head. Exactly. Yep. Everybody knows that because they've been consistently on the air with that jingle. They haven't changed it in that amount of time, except they play that Christmas one. Yeah. But
I know the Shane Company one. And that's not even a jingle either. That's just
but it's repetition and being consistently out in front of people. Now that is the best way. One of the two best ways to do radio is that marathon approach. You don't have to do a ton every single week, all the time, so every listener knows, but you're out there consistently.
Yeah.
The other thing that we did with Josh is the sprint. Marathoners can do sprints. There was a reason, and we ran a ton of ads those weeks because storm damage, count on us, local, trust us. Yeah. And so we did.
And the name of the game in that is speed.
Yes.
Speed. The first wins. In regards to my industry and getting there after a storm. And hence why in my industry, there's so many people that knock doors. Because they're going direct to the person who needs it immediately, right in their face. No need to spend money on marketing. They just show up. But that's positives and negatives to that out in the industry. Is radio still a viable option in this market today to reach customers for businesses?
Nope, I'm retiring. No,
the only viable option to make radio work, Brad, is retiring.
No, radio is one of those. It's interesting. It's been around 100 years. Commercial radio just celebrated its 100th year anniversary, and everybody has over the years, set up the signal flares that it's going down. That this is the end of radio.
Yeah,
and it continues to flourish.
Yeah.
It may not be as big as when it was it's one of three options: newspaper and radio or TV. But radio is still 93% of Americans listen to AM/FM radio at some point during the week. 93%. That is much higher than linear TV, so much higher than smartphones, and you can list all of those there. So in terms of its reach like that, it's still there. Now, when we're talking about reach and frequency,
Yeah.
Radio has
And these are like the
big,
kind of key performance. These are the metrics that you have that are of interest to businesses, obviously.
yes.
So your reach and the frequency. Let's talk about
So let's talk about reach. The biggest thing you could do for reach is buy an ad in the Super Bowl.
that.
I mean, you're going to reach half the population of the country.
Yeah.
Once.
Okay.
So if you have a message that is memorable and you want to put millions of dollars into reach with them once, you can do that.
Yeah.
How is it going to stick? What is that going to affect your business? There are businesses that it makes sense to do that.
Yeah.
Other businesses need to reach people more than once, and that's the frequency
Well, they
aspect.
say, and I don't know if these stats, I think the stats have changed, but I think it takes at least 8 times for someone to hear or see a brand to consider it, to recognize it, or like to have a brand recognition integrated into their psyche. So 8 times, that's a lot, especially for small businesses. That's a hell of a lot because your reach isn't that far. Social media helps out with that, but that's not for everyone either.
Right. So it's that balance that you have to have between reach and frequency. Because if you reach one person 8,000 times, hopefully you're going to be able to get them to do business. But that might not be the best.
Or they might hate you.
But
after
if you reach,
8,000
after 8,000 times.
Yeah.
But if you had one person, if you have 8,000 people, you only reach once, it might be hard to stick, and that's the Super Bowl dilemma, if you will. So how do you balance that? We try and look at, you talk about the 8 times you reach them. So we have different software programs that we run based on our listenership so that we can have an idea of how many listeners we're reaching, how many times. So for example, I'm just going to make up a number. This is, to make it easy math. So let's say during a certain hour of our programming, once a week, we reach 5,000 listeners. Just going to make the math easy, okay? So during that time, you can reach those 5,000 listeners because there are always people coming in and out when they change the stations and different things like that. But you could reach those 5,000 listeners, that average 5,000 listeners, 3 times if you run 3 commercials during that time.
Yeah.
And then you run it the next week for those same 5,000 listeners. You reach it that week.
They're probably listening on a consistent basis during that time. Like they're on a forklift running in the warehouse. They're on job sites working. They're in a kitchen cooking, and they're in the office doing office work. So it's going to be pretty. I haven't thought about it that way before. They're consistently, people are habitual. They have routines. So if they do one thing, it's usually combined with another, and you can predict that they're going to be doing those. So keep going. You're 5,000 people consistently 3 times.
And so if you wanted to run just during that hour, you could reach them 3 times. You could have the same message or the same branding multiple times, or you could reach different pieces of that different times during 3 different commercials during that times or mentions as well, and be able to tell your story that way. Now think about, so in terms of a cost per thousand listener basis, cost per thousand basis, which is I think the same metric that a lot of people use for digital and all that kind of stuff. With radio, it's the same kind of thing. It's a real estate thing. How many people are listening? That's how radio is priced.
Yeah.
And how long the commercial is.
Yeah.
So 60-second commercials are going to be longer, 30, not as long, 15 even, obviously. But it'll be less expensive to run 15-second commercials. You could probably run, I'm just going to estimate it because it depends on the time and everything, but 15-second commercials, you might be able to run those 100 times, whereas the 60-second commercials, you may be able to run 25.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you have to really tell the story, it might make sense to run that 25 times.
Yeah.
But if you have something that you can deliver very quickly, you might be able to deliver something. And then you could, like in the jingle, you could really get the jingle in people's heads and get the main point out there multiple times and really drill that into people's heads over a long period of time. And your cost per thousand, your CPM can go anywhere from, can be in the 20s. But if you're running 15-second spots, and depending on the station and the day part and all that kind of stuff, it could be under 5. If you're doing mentions, if you have some other promotion you're doing and you count those in the metrics, now you're talking 2, 1.75, your name is heard? Is it
Yeah.
worth $2? If you gave me $2 and I said 1,000 people can hear North Face Construction, is that worth it for you?
Yeah.
So that's how
That's
we can get
interesting,
the
breaking
name.
it down to the metrics there. So how those things, that's kind of the front end, analyzing the opportunity and creating a strategy for utilizing radio. On the business owner's end, I'm always looking for, what is this going to give me in my results? And some of the things are very tangible and easy to track. Like if I invest money in this, I know with 100%, it's this cost per phone call, right? I could pay some place to call 1,000 people and I know it'll cost this much. And I know on average, it'll generate this much revenue. Very easily trackable and predictable, but there's also branding. Branding's the intangible one that is hard to put numbers on, whatnot. How do you bring the ROI and the branding together to create returns for the businesses? Like, how does that work? Like, from me asking these questions, how would you bring it home to me? Like, this is the value add that you're going to get at the end of the day by advertising on Bob.
Sure. So let's say we reach 300,000 listeners each week. Okay. Yeah. And let's say, we'll make it monthly. We'll make math easy. 100,000 listeners every week. Okay. Now, I like to ask the question, how many of those listeners have to contract with you, Josh? If you spent, we'll make the math easy, $10,000, how many listeners would have to contract with you to turn around and make that an ROI?
Let's do some math. Let's run the scenario.
To make the ROI worth it for
so
you.
$10,000. How many would have to contract
with
us?
How many? What if somebody went and signed? If you got business off of it, what dollar? Let's say what dollar amount? Just give me a dollar amount. What makes that?
What do you mean? What makes that?
So if you give me $10,000, and
how
then
much in revenue do I?
How much revenue do you
them?
need to say, hey, this made sense? Is it 2 to 1, 3 to 1?
I want 200,000.
You want a 20 to 1, a 20 to 1 ratio. Okay. And what you do and how you do, the mechanisms that you use produce 20 to 1 ratios. Is that correct? Okay. Cool.
In general,
I know it's right.
Law of large numbers,
right?
And that's the thing. It might not. That's just a generalization. Yeah. So it wouldn't necessarily apply 100% in this situation, right? Because there's the branding end of things. Right. That is where's the value on that, right? So
exactly. So we're talking about ROI, which is the bottom line for everything. There's short-term ROI, there's long-term ROI, sprint, marathon. We talked about. So what we're talking about here, I see, is more of a with the branding involved. That's going to be a long-term ROI.
Yes,
you're going to be something to do that. So if you're saying, hey, if I give you $10,000, can you bring me $200,000 in business? Part of it, the answer is yes, but obviously with any business, and this makes sense, is we're bringing it to your door, and you got to close a deal, and you got to do all that kind of stuff.
Well,
and we know that.
Also, and that's the aspect of consistency and frequency, like you said. If you're spending $10,000 in one day, you're probably not going to get the ROI. But if you spread that $10,000 out over 10 years, you're probably not going to get ROI. But it's finding that frequency and threshold, like you're talking about, that brings ROI, and not all of it's going to be immediate. Because if you're investing in the branding, say only get 100,000 revenue from it within a year. But I've hit the whole population in this area 100 times with my branding. The recognition and aptitude to choose me over someone else now increases.
Yes.
So that's the hard thing to track for a business owner. Like how do you do that? And I think the one thing that I've learned recently is, especially in marketing, is you have to have done things consistently and long enough and spent enough money to have statistically significant data, right? Like you have to have done it long enough to really know the answer. Most marketing, if you only analyze 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, even 6 months, or even a year, it may look terrible, but if you consistently keep with it, it's a return. Because you look at, what's a big advertiser on radio? What's a big one?
We'll say on our era, furniture and things.
Furniture and things, yeah, local, right here in 10. I mean, how long have they been doing it?
30 years. They've been on our air for 30 years consistently with a very strong campaign.
Well, the proof is in the pudding. They're a pretty successful business, I'd say, locally, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's a big brand that everyone, like, say, even nationwide, would recognize potentially?
Oh gosh, you can talk about Home Depot or Lowe's or any.
Then why do they do the advertising on radio if it doesn't work?
Right, exactly. Or how about this? Indeed or ZipRecruiter. Recruitment is huge right now with how many people need. 2 of the top 4 radio advertisers in terms of spots that have played across the country in the last 6 months, Indeed and ZipRecruiter. And Indeed it's not even close to second place in terms of there's hundreds of thousands of they've played hundreds of thousands more commercials across there because they know radio reaches those passive listeners, it reaches the business owners, it works. Yeah. They know that it works for recruiting. So and that helps. So, so in terms of, just to circle back to the ROI, is it is a steady and slow thing because now you're not really going to have sales for what you do, but that's one way to reinforce the brand or to get an uptick during a very long campaign is to do that, is to have a short window of this. So you can measure the ROI, brand recognition, all that kind of stuff. When I talk with like you, Josh, yes, we had to do it was a sprint, great, wonderful. But if we were to do something, I would recommend a very long-term, year, 2 years kind of thing. So and it doesn't mean you spend a ton of money like we're saying, but you have a consistent schedule, like you said, and you're always out there. And then it's about efficiency, and this is what I wanted to touch on. So especially for someone like you, Josh. We know some of our.
I think I'm being sold.
No,
that's good.
You've got.
I want to hear the pitch. This is good content.
But it's a great. But the thing is, I can use you as a perfect example because then everybody else can say, "Oh, how does this work for me?"
Yeah.
So, for example, home ownership would be huge for you, and knowing what percentage of the audience owns homes. Yes. So, for example, we're anywhere from 88 to 92% home ownership, whereas the average homeowner, I think, is about 72% of residents in the area own homes, if I recall correctly. So in terms of efficiency, you are going to reach a lot more homeowners as a percentage by being on our station than some other methods. And there are going to be some that are going to be even higher than us.
Like posting on an Instagram story.
Right. So you've got that. And then you look at, who our listeners are in terms of their income. Well, if we've got 58% of our listeners are $75,000 more per year household income, then you're saying, okay, this looks like a place where they can, if I do the job or I recommend something, they can do what I recommend. Yeah. So that's important as well. Mm-hmm. And then you look at the demographics. We aim for 35, 54-year-olds. We skew a little bit older simply because we got those Bob Classics. Yeah. But that is our bread and butter. That's where the meat of our listeners are. So knowing that, then you have an idea of, who we are, who we're targeting. Yeah. We happen to be at this moment more about 60-40 men versus women. Not that we're targeting that way. That's just where the listenership is falling. Yeah. And we've seen it lean male. But now it gives you an idea of who we are and what we do. And you're saying, okay, yes, I'm doing this. Well, I like the females better. I'm not saying you do or don't. I'm just saying,
if you know your customer, so that's an important thing too to touch on, is as a business owner, knowing who your customer is, who is the decision maker that buys your product or service. What does the household look like that is a good profile of a customer? And so that's important coming into it, because you might come into it, business owners thinking, oh yeah, this is what I want. Like, say for instance, it's I'm selling something that 10-year-olds want. Am I going to go to radio and sell that necessarily? If it's a direct app, if I'm selling an app, right? If I'm advertising my new app on the App Store, that's whoever's going to use this, 10 to 16 years old. Is Bob the right place to come? Probably not. No. And it wouldn't be good for you guys. It's not a good relationship. So that's important. But then also, like you said, if it is a company like mine that resonates with homeowners and stuff like that, certain income levels that buy residential remodeling services, I want to be at the place that has it. I don't want to be advertising on Kids Bop Radio or whatever,
Right,
you know,
right,
like that's not my customer. It'll be 100% wasted money, which is not good for you guys too.
Right.
So as a business owner, you really have to know who your customer is before you start spending the money too.
Yeah, and that's what we look from our end. We look out that way. We're trying to say who's going to be a good match for our station. Who do we reach with that? So we use some of the different industry. We look at the metrics and say who are we talking to the same group? Because if we're talking to the same group, then they're going to be much more successful. And my goal is to obviously bring you ROI.
Yeah.
I want to have a long-term relationship.
Yeah.
I want you to be on for years and years, and I want to help your business grow. I want you to be memorable. And that's the other thing with the frequency and the reach that we want to do is for Josh. And if there's other construction companies, that happens too.
Yeah.
But I will say, for what Josh does and for what North Face is trying to accomplish, we come up with a long-term plan. Our idea is for people, this is the hard thing to measure, is in the listener's mind when they think, oh my gosh, I just had this hailstorm. Who am I going to call? We want North Face to be the first thing that comes to their mind.
Yeah.
So they pick up the phone and call because that's who's top of mind.
Yeah.
And if we can do that, it doesn't matter where it does. But it doesn't really matter where you end up in the Google search.
Yeah.
It doesn't do that because they're
recognize
going to
it.
type in North Face Construction.
Well,
they're not going to say hail
perfect
damage.
case study in Minnesota, a competitor, but a big competitor everyone knows. Just call Sella.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I mean, we all know that. I grew up on the commercials. I grew up on the radio hearing it. And it's just like, if I, from a buyer standpoint, see that or, it's Sella. I know them. They've done a great job over the years building that business and building the huge amount of customer base now in Minnesota. So that's case in point. Exactly what I'm trying to accomplish long term, right? So the business stuff, like the branding long term, that is very interesting. I mean, I love that stuff. I could talk business and the numbers and stuff all day. That gets me all excited. But let's talk about Bob for like just even a listener standpoint. What makes Bob unique compared to other radio stations?
Well, from a listener standpoint, we play the 90s based country. And we're the other thing, we can talk about, in terms of listener, that's the thing. What we bring in terms of the music, that's going to be most of the reason why people listen. Another reason, hopefully, why people listen is because we're local. We're right here.
We're literally 10 minutes from our shop.
Exactly, and we're right in Ramsey is where our actual studios are. Our transmitter's up in Albertville, the 106.1.
Yeah,
of course, we're all over the place. The other way, and being local and have it. It's not that they have to be, but a whole bunch of Minnesotans are on the air. I grew up here. Jeff grew up here. Neil grew up here. So on and so forth. So we know not only is it who we are, it's
you live here.
We live here. We know.
You know the happenings in the area. You know the roads that we drive on. You know the weather of the day. What's going on. Well, it's like proximity and like understanding. I think even us from a customer service standpoint, it's just very, very important for us on like when people call us that like whoever answers the phone can be like small talk, right? But in a different way, right?
Yeah.
Like local small talk. So I think that's very important. What's your favorite part about working for Bob?
Oh, you're gonna make me choose one. Okay.
You don't have to choose one. Just talk about why you love working here.
I'll talk about several things. First of all, I do like just to finish out the local part of it, which is one of the reasons why I like it, is locally owned. I'm not answering to a corporation or shareholders or all that kind of stuff, or this collapsing pressure on all these economic things that a lot of the big corporations have every month. There are goals, to be sure, but because I know the owners, we work well together. We have a long-term goal of what we want to do and how we're getting there and all that kind of stuff. So that frees me up to make better decisions, if you will, as opposed to short-term, short-sighted decisions to make it look good for the stockholders. Yeah. Because there's so many companies that they do that and then they end up just killing themselves after that. And they have to do a whole bunch of
looking
things.
good on paper and reporting and payouts.
Yes.
Sometimes slits the wrist of the long term.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so
Yeah.
we can do that here is do that. So I can work with you and I can breathe a little bit by thinking how what's best for everybody. So that's one of the things that I really like about working here. I do like, even though I'm on just 4 hours a day, I love the on-air stuff.
Do you like
And if
country?
You know what? Honestly, I did not grow up listening to country. But as I've listened more to this station and what it does, I've understood country better, and I've understood this may sound a little silly to somebody who's listening their whole life. The variety of country. The variety that you find in popular music, you find in country, and that means that slow, rock, novelty, comedy,
pop country,
you find that in country music.
Yeah.
And I don't think people who don't listen to country don't understand. They may not understand that it just encompasses a whole bunch of things. Yeah. And so that's kind of neat. So being the on-air part, but yeah, anything from the 80s.
What's your favorite band?
Oh gosh.
What's your favorite country band?
My favorite country band? Well, I like Garth.
Garth.
I've said, outside of Garth, I probably didn't know any country until when I started here. And I'm exaggerating, of course, but I went to his concert when he had those Strings of Record concerts here in '98. I was there for the first 2 nights.
Well, he just had concerts a couple of years ago. It was like 2-3 nights in a row sold out, right?
Yep. And because of scheduling, I couldn't make it even though I had tickets.
Oh.
But that was...
Hold on. Keep going.
Okay.
So in terms of country, that's what I like here. But it's really seeing how I can help businesses just like yours, Josh. How can I help you succeed? How can I help you feed your family? How can I help you? The more I can help you, then the more. This is not just about me. I need to keep a roof over my kids' heads. Yeah. No pun intended. But I.
If it works, it works.
It is. But I need to. If I can help you do that for your family. Okay, now I'm not just helping my family. I'm helping you and your family. Now I'm helping 4 people. Now I'm also helping. If you're successful there, I'm helping your employees.
Yes.
So now there's more than that. And then I'm helping their families.
Yeah.
Now we talk about the listener standpoint. I connect a listener to you that gets a good quality roof, construction job, whatever. Their home is awesome. Yeah. Now I've helped their family. Yeah. Okay. And by the advertising dollars that work through, obviously it works through here. Yeah. It helps us provide better content here. Yeah. And it helps us provide better.
Symbiotic.
Exactly. So now I'm helping potentially thousands of people by what I do. Yeah. And that's really exciting.
To recognize that. I like that mindset. It resonates well with me. We and on the different end of things, like us, we have a customer for life mindset. That's our mantra. That's our purpose. We want to create customers for life, whether or not they do business with me or not today. We want to create that long-term impact locally and have it grow organically out. In a different thing, but a similar, I think, philosophical point of view. What you say really resonates.
But here's the thing from your end: if you create a customer for life, you've got a built-in referral for life too. Yeah. And that helps with your marketing dollars being. Now you hear, so you're doing something with us where we'll run that commercial, the jingle. It's like North Face. Oh, that's right. That's who Susan said. Who did their house. They did a great job. Yeah. And now they get that reminder in their head, and now that reminds them that that's the place that they're going to call when they have a problem.
Well, and it's just like we were talking about before that, I don't know if it was recorded, but that local big company, they've spent so much money branding to us that now how much they spend, they only do 15-second spots because everyone knows them already. They just do quick message, jingle. Mm-hmm. It's not a full here's who we are. They don't have to. Mm-hmm. Everyone knows them. Here's the talk of the town right now for our business. Here's the jingle. Remember us? Here we are. And they're getting their ROI for way less spending.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Mm-hmm. And so that's the like I said, that's what we're trying to do here.
Yeah, it's cool. I like it. Welcome to the entertainment section of the video. Right now, Brad and I are going to quiz each other on some questions that were written down by our wonderful Mariah, and we're going to quiz each other. And they are music-themed questions, so we'll see who can get the most right. So I have 3 questions. You have 3 questions. We'll go back and forth, and let's see who wins.
Okay.
Let's go. Brad, go first.
All right. Okay, Josh.
Brad.
For no dollars, what artist was the movie Rocket Man made for?
Rocket Man. Elton John.
Mariah says yes.
That was a good movie. That was a good movie.
I did not see
All
the
right.
movie, but I heard it was really good.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
All right, Brad. What is the most popular streaming service for music?
Currently, I'm going to go with Spotify.
Nice.
All right.
Yes.
Mariah says yes. Okay.
All right.
We both have one. Okay.
1-1.
All right, Josh. Name 3 Morgan Wallen songs.
Uh-oh. A lot of the people that I know are going to get mad at me because
Are they
I don't know
because
any.
you know them or because you don't know them? Okay.
If they were played for me, I would probably know them, but
Okay.
I don't know the names of any Morgan Wallen songs.
Okay. And I don't either. So that was a tough one.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to get a lot of
All right.
flack for that. Even my
That's okay.
wife will give me flack for that. All right.
You'll know when
Brad.
you hear them. That's it. And that's it. That's one right
Yeah,
there.
I will.
that's
I just don't know the names of them. Name 3 Chris Stapleton songs.
Now, this is going to surprise you, but it's the exact same list that Josh had. I don't have any idea.
Oh, you
I
don't? See, the thing is,
I'm
I'm a
not-
much bigger fan of Chris Stapleton than Morgan Wallen, but I don't know. I know, like I know them, but I
Right.
don't. Like I literally have them on my playlist. All right.
Okay.
So Brad, for the 3rd one, what is the name of the lead singer in Queen?
That would be Freddie Mercury. I know that one. I know that one.
I figured. Yep. He's got 2. I have 1. And I have one last question to tie.
All right, there you go. What artist is featured on Lil Nas X's song "Industry Baby"?
I have no idea.
Jack Harlow would be the answer to that.
I don't know who that is. I don't know who he. And if we're being honest, I don't know who Nas X is.
Okay.
Brad, you win a great handshake, and you get your bag of jelly beans back as a prize. But you get bragging rights. You get bragging rights. That's more than that. That's worth more than anything. And you know what? I'll buy you lunch sometime. How about that?
That sounds good. And you
Perfect.
know what? We'll have to do. I'll allow you a rematch anytime.
Sounds
Anytime.
good.
Love trivia. We'll do it.
All right. Sounds
Okay,
good. Thanks
thanks.
for watching the entertainment section. What other things are unique about Bob, at least for the listeners? And you talked about businesses. Maybe you want to say a couple more things about
Mhm.
what makes Bob unique
Mhm.
to business owners and your reach and who the customer is or the listener is.
Mhm.
But then talk about what do the listeners get from Bob? Like what kind of stationery, what kind of music? Let's do the general overview of Bob.
Sure. So, Bob FM, we're different than the other country music stations in the market. There are some little ones here and there that play classic country, and I don't mean to demean them by saying little. I just mean smaller. They don't have the power or the reach. So we are aiming for, it's kind of a 90s based country. We say classic country, but it's really
Garth Brooks.
90s, exactly. Rebud,
Yeah.
and you can just go on and
Oh,
on.
yeah.
But we do reach into the 2000s, and we reach way back with our Bob classics that will drop in once or twice an hour. A Hank Senior,
Mhm.
it could
Will
be anything
be.
like that.
Yeah.
Anything like that. Go back in the 70s and drop those.
So it's
Bob classics.
country, obviously. Bob,
Mhm.
total country.
Yes.
But that's your like some really old, but and some newer, but
Mhm.
main like 80s, 90s.
80s, 90s is our bread and butter.
Okay.
But we'll play stuff. We've got play stuff from the teens as well. If it
Yeah.
fits with and it's good music and plays it, or if one of those classic artists does a new song,
That's true.
we'll have them.
Do you do, because I feel like some of the newer artists, like say Chris Stapleton, like stuff like that, the newer ones, do those fall into that category?
It always depends on what is, how does it sound and feel.
Mhm.
Like, chances are very small we're going to have Lil Nas X on our air, even though he is considered in some places country.
Yeah.
It's just not going to quite fit with the type and style of the music that we have. It's kind of the same thing that you might have certain Foreigner songs on a light rock station
Yeah.
and certain Foreigners on a classic rock station.
Yeah.
But there are going to be certain songs of theirs that are not going to be on both.
Wow, there's a lot of
Because-
thought behind like the curation of what songs and artists.
Mhm.
So let's talk about the people,
Yeah.
Bob,
Mhm.
right? How many employees are there
Sure.
employed at Bob?
We really have a handful of core people that are here.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got all kinds of, I've got my sales staff as
Okay.
well, which it's expanded out more than that, but I'm thinking about the on-air staff is what
Yeah.
we're talking about. So we've got then and Jeff Jones, who's our midday
Mm-hmm.
personality. He is also a program director, music director. So he's the
Okay.
one that
He's the one that
curates the
curates
music.
Okay,
And
that's
he's
kind of what I
got the
was getting
strategy
to. Like,
because we're trying to build a particular brand, just like you are, Josh.
Yeah.
We're trying to tell people who we are and what we do and be consistent in what we do over the air.
Mhm.
Same thing with you
Yeah.
and how you try and explain who you are and be consistent with that in all of your marketing.
Yeah.
You've got this, you've got the billboards on Highway 10, the commercials that we do. It should all tie together. The website, every digital thing, all the social media stuff that
Yeah.
you do should be absolutely consistent and tell the same story in different aspects.
Yeah.
But whatever you do throughout the whole thing. And then
Mhm.
we're a part of that. And we keep that brand up and we want to help reinforce
Yeah.
that so people know when they want local and trusted,
Yeah.
to go to you.
Okay. So you have the person who curates is your main guy,
Mhm.
and then how many other DJs are here? I know you have a time slot,
I
right?
do. Saturday afternoons, 1 to 5. Yes, exactly. And but Neil Freeman he's the what's called the group manager. Most people understand station manager a little bit
Yeah.
better, but because of multiple stations. He's
Okay.
the
How many
manager of that.
stations are there?
So we've got, I'm going to just go through them. So we've got KLCI. Not many people are going to know these call letters, and that's okay. But we're on 106.1 up in the Northwest Metro. And that
Okay.
reaches quite a bit further than that, obviously.
Turn your knob to Bob.
Exactly. And then we're at 95.5. Out of Forest Lake is what the city of license is there. And that'll reach into western Wisconsin. I was
Okay.
driving through Frederick and Luck, Wisconsin last week, and I hit the scan button on the radio and it stopped at 95.9. So we could pick up
There you
Bob
go.
there. 107.5,
Okay.
and that comes out of Faribault, but that reaches into Iowa and into the southern
Oh,
metro.
really?
Yep.
Down into Iowa.
Yep, we reach past the border, and then we reach. The funny thing is, in certain conditions, you can actually get it up here. 107.5. It doesn't come in very well. That's why.
Yeah.
107.5 is
Depending on
fine.
conditions.
Right. And then we're at 105.5 up in St. Cloud.
Mm-hmm.
We've got an HD station that runs on our sub channels. So some people in their trucks and cars have these HD radios.
Mm-hmm.
And if you turn to HD2 on some of these frequencies, you get a completely different station.
Yeah.
And HD3 on 106.1 and 105.5 up in St. Cloud is the Big Q. It's an oldies station.
Okay. So that's yours.
That's ours.
That's under the Bob umbrella.
It's under the Bob, right.
Interesting.
Yes.
I didn't know that. Well, maybe I did know that, but it's interesting how they all tie together, and I didn't realize. I guess what I didn't know is like the HD designations changes.
Yeah. That's
I
okay.
haven't been switching through the radio recently, but I know what you're talking about between the HD1 and HD2 when I had knobs. So
There you go.
when I turn my knob to Bob. If you're a business, so we'll close things out here. If you're a business, how do you get in contact with you to advertise on radio?
Mhm.
And then how do consumers find you? Turn the knob to Bob.
That's true. We do run spots. Right now we've got so many businesses and it's so busy that there have been other times when I'm doing commercials and say, hey, if you're interested, just reach
Yeah.
out to me. So first of all, again, my name is Brad Clark. You can reach us by going to mybobcountry.com. That's got my contact information on there.
Oh, perfect.
You can find me there. You can also reach me at 763. Get your pencils out. This is very important. Or you can just pause and go back. 412-4643. Not a very memorable phone number at all, but it'll work. Or email me, brad@mybobcountry.com. That
He's
all
very
works.
responsive.
And you know what Josh is going to do, and Mariah here, they're going to put all of my information in a link in the after this, so they can reach out, so make it even easier.
Mhm.
I didn't know if they were going to do that. I just said that. Just to
Oh,
be
well,
clear.
I like the plug. We'll do
but
that.
but to do that, And hopefully you've seen, I know that obviously us talking and we've talked over the years, but the idea is how can we help?
Yeah.
It's not, I've got a package that I'm going to pitch to you, and then is it A, B, or C? It's where are the problems? Where are the challenges? Where are the marketing things? What are your marketing goals?
Yeah.
And have that conversation so that we can figure out how do you get from A to B.
Mm-hmm.
This is where I want to be in 2 years. I want my own helicopter. Okay, so how much do we have to bring in to buy you a helicopter? What do we need to invest?
Or at least a ride in one.
Exactly. So
I actually know a guy for that, but yeah.
so that's I want to take, I don't like the salesman-y kind of thing. I don't like that kind of thing. It's like when you're trying to help people, Josh, you go assess the situation, you say, this is what I recommend, and then they can say, this sounds good. Exactly. This is what I think you should do based on what I see here. And it's an up or down vote, or we talk about a third idea.
Yeah. Or if it's not right now, we'll find out what it is. I mean, the first time we talked was 4 years ago, and I didn't do anything up until this year.
Exactly, and
But here we are. Yeah. Here we are, and it's the developing of the relationship long term.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I love it.
So
this has been fun. It's
Josh,
been a lot of fun.
I really
nice
appreciate
to learn more about you, about Bob, and I mean, overall for me, the purpose is to learn and then share that with other people. So if this video can help some other business or even just provide some fun entertainment for people, it's beneficial to North Face to be known for providing that kind of information out there, because that's who we are, what we like to do, and I want to help you guys out and grow your business and grow more listeners, because I really do enjoy Turning My Knob to Bob. It's a good station. I love it. So and overall, I hope the people who listen to this and watch this enjoy the video and give us your feedback on any more stuff that you might want to see next time, or if you have any questions that we can refer to Brad here over at Bob, and we'll make sure to answer those. Thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks, Brad.
Thank you. Thanks,
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.